The image that some have of Hollywood sometimes includes high-paid stars and studio executives in flashy clothes and glamorous cars. To an extent, that image is correct. But Hollywood also includes a large number of individuals who are not making big dollars, but just concerned about keeping their salaries coming in, as so many individuals in so many areas are worried about. That has been changing, and to get a handle on it, I have author and commentator Sharrie Williams on the line from Hollywood to explain some of the changes. Thanks for joining us today, Sharrie.
Oh, my pleasure.
Often when we think about feature films, we automatically assume that everything comes out of Hollywood, but that has not necessarily been the case with every film in recent years. What happened?
Well, the film industry in Hollywood became increasingly alarmed in 2008 when production companies were leaving California to take advantage of tax breaks offered by states like New York, Georgia, Louisiana, and others who are giving tax incentives ranging from 20 to 30%. That was the beginning of making it very difficult for Hollywood to keep its usual level of film productions going. So at that time, advocates turned to Governor Schwarzenegger to take up the cause and let's keep these jobs at home.
And of course, Governor Schwarzenegger was probably the logical governor to turn to, given his background. So Hollywood could not keep up its usual level of production, and that must have been pretty costly for the local talent. What happened?
Well, not just film jobs, and actors that were hurt, but a huge number of spin-offs, including hotel rooms and catering, the permits you have to get, the crew members like cameraman, grips, just driving services. The list goes on. There are hundreds of jobs included with every movie.
Well, perhaps coming a bit late to the party, California then started offering tax breaks, and perhaps they hadn't realized how aggressive other jurisdictions had become until then. Did they manage to get the films back in town?
Well, finally, in about 2014, California began offering about $330 million film and television tax credit incentives. But it was for big productions, spending tens of millions of dollars. However, feature films have taken a big hit this year with film productions down over 36% because the budgets don't meet the requirements to apply for the tax credit.
And that's probably yet another problem that smaller films and independent films have to face. They're not big enough to get the tax credit. Is that right?
Oh, yes, that is so right. And that's why they leave California. But California's incentive program hasn't been able to compete for the big budget blockbusters because they don't have enough big enough budget to qualify for the 30% incentive. However, the good news is live action feature films will see a rebound in California because of the enhanced incentives. Features.
How do the incentives work? Is it like a tax break, or how does it work?
Well, you have to have a budget over a certain amount to be able to even apply for it. So
Right.
Features with a budget over $75 million are eligible now, and on location feature film productions have reached an 8-year high in 2016.
So what's happening with it now?
Well, right now, actually, we do have a little bit of good news because several TV projects have been approved for the tax credit, including TV's Scream Queens, HBO's Ballers, Lethal Weapon, and Lucifer, which is one of my favorite films, which actually filmed its last 2 seasons in Vancouver, but it's relocating production to Los Angeles now. Netflix also is got big plans to shoot in LA. Lucifer had submitted the tax credit to the Film Commission, and most recent round of TV project applications were priority because they were locating.
Is it possible that, as I was saying before, that California was really late to this party? They didn't realize that these other jurisdictions were becoming so aggressive with their tax breaks?
Well, I think that they just assumed that they were Hollywood, right? I mean, when you think of Hollywood, don't you think of Hollywood? Now Hollywood is any place. It's not just California. Practically all the states have film productions that are outdoing California. But yes, you're right.
And Louisiana and Canada were very aggressive at one time. Netflix is going to be doing a lot of work there. Does that make a big difference?
You mean in Canada or in
California?
Well, it'll at least raise it 5%. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, that's just the beginning. I mean, I believe that everybody would prefer to shoot in California because of the weather. But at this point, California is still not giving, they're making it more difficult for regular little TV shows to get a start.
Yeah, it was the weather that led to the starting of the first film colony in California all those decades ago.
Oh my gosh, yes. You are so right. They didn't have film stages in those days, so they depended on the light coming from the sky. If it rained, there was no filming.
Right. So is there a kind of collective sigh of relief now running through Hollywood?
I think it's probably cautious, but I know a lot of people who are gaffers, just cameramen, and they are the ones that are scrambling still. I mean, they're so grateful when they get a job, but there's no guarantee that there'll be another one following it. So yes, caution, hopeful that there will be more work for the little guy, the behind the scenes guy.
And they're every bit as worried about their jobs as people in other categories. I'll have to stop you there, Sharrie, but thanks for shedding some light on the non-glamorous side of making a living in Hollywood. Some folks in Los Angeles and Hollywood probably worry about their mortgages as much as anybody else. That wraps up this edition of American Narratives. Please join us again as we continue working to clear up the confusion in the day's news with our roster of analysts and journalists from across the country.